Hey everybody. Wow. I've had such a great week and it's only Wednesday. Oh my gosh, it's only midweek. I've had things happen this week that I just didn't expect and it's been nothing but lovely. First of all, I'm going to play a little clip that I did on the Jimmy Dore show. So I'm always so happy to talk to him and to have anything to do with him. I just love him and his staff. Yes, I am a total groupie and sometimes I get a little nervous and probably squirrely on the show or something. So, but anyway, he's so gracious and I just love chatting with him. So I'll play a little clip of that. We were talking about Mark Carney. Now, at the time that I taped the video, which I believe was Monday or Tuesday, Monday, um, uh, you know, we were, he had the media tongue bath, as I like to call it, right? Like the media was spit shining him and putting him out there like a savior. And I was getting worried that people were eating it up. But luckily, Carney, all he has to do is open his mouth and then all doubt is removed, right? The day that he was sworn in, I told you he had no impulse control and he does not. And that was revealed so strongly in that the hilarious press conference that he did over in Europe, where very good but simple questions were asked of him by Rosemary Barton. Oh, sorry, I just got a bit sidetracked. I also want to say that I did a podcast that just came from nowhere yesterday, and I got to meet Jasmine Lane. She wears her heart on her sleeve, very open, wonderful person. Jason Levine put that together. And I also, Clinton Jaws said hello to me too. So I've had the most fantastic week. I can't even believe it. And some people have said, one thing I want to say about Clinton Jaws, just in the very tiny text exchange we had, he's got a good heart. He's got humbleness and he's got humility. There is nothing, he's not arrogant at all. He's humble, a humble guy, and that says a lot about someone. So I liked him already. The dude is dope, right? Okay, so moving on. Before I get into this video, also I want to say some people have said they have a hard time finding me on YouTube. I am very small potatoes on YouTube. I've never really known how to grow there, but I think if you just look at my ticker on the bottom, Anita K, if you go to YouTube and type it like that, capital A, capital K, no space, hopefully you'll find me. Sometimes you can find me by typing Anita 808. And 808 I always thought was a lucky number for me, but maybe it's not because no one can find me. So hopefully you can find me that way. Okay, now back to this. Back to Carney just putting his foot in it. I told you he had no impulse control, and it's very difficult for him to answer questions because he's not the type. Even if you've never done this job as a politician before, some people have the patience and they have the tolerance. That's not in him. He does not have that. And the questions that were asked of him were completely legitimate questions. And I'm going to get into that, but I'll just play you a clip first. Most of you have seen this now. Rosemary Barton and Stephanie from the Toronto Sun, I believe.
Serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Point final.
Point final. So defensive. So defensive. Let's just recue that. Just when he says, what possible conflicts of interest? I'll tell you in a second.
He has been the leader of the opposition for 3 years. So I comply with my responsibilities. I comply with the rules. Well,
right before that, he was slagging off Pierre for not getting his security clearance, but I believe that if he did, he would not be able to hold the information that he finds in that clearance to account. He'll not be able to do what he wants to do with it if he gets a clearance. That is my understanding. I could be wrong. So that is why he didn't get the security clearance. So, but Carney always criticizes him for that.
In advance. And the leader of the opposition doesn't take his responsibilities.
With federal election, most likely within the next 120 days, and are serving as Prime Minister now, with Canadians not being aware of what potential conflicts of interest you sought to avoid.
What possible conflict would you have, Stephanie? Stephanie, I'm complying with the rules. I'm complying with the rules in advance. Look inside yourself, Rosemary. I mean, you start from a prior of conflict and ill will.
Oh God. Okay. It's so hard to even listen to that, but that was it. That was hilarious when he's like, look inside yourself, Rosemary. What the hell? And what he's trying to say is, you're coming at me from a negative and you're starting off on that negative foot. But he's so inarticulate and awkward that it's difficult for him to blurt that out. But that's what he's trying to get at. So now that he's criticized Rosemary Barton, it's going to be hella awkward next time Carney is on the CBC being interviewed by Rosemary Barton. I don't think she's likely to be chummy or supportive. And she kind of wasn't that much in one of the interviews. Sometimes she is, sometimes she isn't. But CBC licks the boots of Carney, and now he's created this little rift, right? He's soured the relationship with Barton and the CBC. Now the CBC may say, "Get lost, Rosemary. You really blew it," but she actually didn't. I'm not here to defend her at all, but the question that both these reporters asked was a legitimate question. He's got these assets in a blind trust, right? So what does that mean? It means that it is a problem. Like, for example, if all of a sudden he decides to legislate something like, "Hey, everybody, free ice cream all summer, free ice cream, or you get a big discount on ice cream until 2027, right? And you can get it at this company, that company, and there's legislation that you can get, all Canadians get 50% off or something off the sales." So if he did something like that, and then lo and behold, we see in his assets that he is the owner of 3 ice cream companies or even one, then that's a problem. That's a conflict of interest, right? And that's just a silly example that I'm using to illustrate that he needs to be transparent about that. But when you actually look into what possible assets he might have, here are just some of the things that Carney could be conflicted on. Okay, so nuclear energy, carbon capture and storage, wind turbines, natural gas, heat pumps, battery energy storage, real estate projects. That's a known thing. He's got connections in Shanghai. Green hydrogen, Canadian pension funds, income tax laws, and real estate. This ain't ice cream. So these are some of the things that could have a conflict of interest that are in that blind trust that the Canadians need to know about before they vote. So those were just legitimate questions, because if he does anything like give rebates or has any sort of dealings with companies involved in things like that, that's a major conflict of interest. Okay, now moving on to this, a lot of people are talking about Trump.
But you're tougher with Canada than you are with some of our biggest adversaries.
Only because it's meant to be our 51st Street. And
okay, but
but listen to this for a second.
We need their territory. They have territorial advantage. We're not going to let them get close to China.
Look, right? I deal with every country.
Hey, Laura, newsflash, too late. We are very close to China. China is enmeshed and embedded in many things in Canada, and that are not good.
Indirectly or directly. One of the nastiest countries to deal with is Canada. The people that, now this was Trudeau, the people that good old Justin, I call him Governor Trudeau, his people were nasty, and they weren't telling the truth. They never told the truth. You know that, they'd say, well, we don't charge. Well, they do. They charge tremendous. And if you look at dairy products, what they've done to our farmers, I'd go up to Iowa, I'd go up to different places, Nebraska, and they would always complain about Canada, how they get ripped off. Do you know that Canada has a 250% tariff? 250, nobody knows that. They charge us numbers that are crazy.
Okay, I want to say something about the dairy tariffs that Canada has put upon the U.S. Apparently, like according to 2 or 3 reports I've heard, on dairy, we do have these exorbitant 200% tariffs on the dairy that we ship to the U.S. or sell to the U.S. But those tariffs only come into place when a certain quota has been reached. And thus far, I don't think we have reached that quota. If I am wrong, please somebody tell me in the comments. But so although we do have this tariff, the tariff has never been implemented because the US has never gone over the quota. So that's the thing. But he brings up the point. So like Canada can't act all innocent that we never tariff anybody and we're so innocent. And Melanie Jolie, they're going to cry about it. We are not so innocent. And we have put this tariff on Chinese EVs. I did a video about it. And the Chinese are now ticked off at us because they're going to put tariff our canola, tariff our pork and seafood and steel, aluminum, some other things too, right? And so that's not good because we don't have a lot of Chinese EVs. And for us to do that, I understand why we're tariffing, because I think you can get a Chinese EV for around $13,000. And so if you pay 100% tariff, it's still only going to be 26, right? So you're going to get an EV for around 30,000, I think, right? So that's why we did the tariff. So fair enough, I guess. But we've ticked off the Chinese, so we could have done it better than that. Okay, let's go back to Trump.
And we subsidize Canada, and I like Canada. I love Canada. I love
but
Wayne
now
Gretzky.
the Liberal guys,
I love his wife.
the Liberal
I love
Party is going to
everything.
win now in the next election,
I don't
most
care.
likely. And they were
I don't care.
down and out.
I don't
Isn't that going to
care.
make them more hostile to us and
No,
possibly
I'd rather
open the
deal with
door
a liberal than a
for
conservative.
China closer to
Laura,
Canada?
Laura.
And that would really put us in a bind.
The conservative that's running is stupidly no friend of mine. I don't know him, but he said negative things. So when he says negative things, I couldn't care less. I think it's easier to deal actually with a liberal. And maybe they're going to win, but I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me at all.
A lot of podcasters are saying, look, Trump said, I'd rather go for a liberal. I'd rather go for a liberal. Like, and that Polyev guy, whatever, I don't like him. You know what I think he's doing? This is reverse psychology a little bit, right? Trump actually doesn't care. He considers us as such a sort of nothing burger on the world political stage. He doesn't care. You put the liberals in, and you send Chrystia Freeland and Melanie Joly, Dominic LeBlanc, and all of them to go sit at it. He's met all these people. He knows all these people. He's going to annihilate them, and he knows Carney is no threat. You can railroad that guy. Carney can get railroaded by a simple question from a CBC reporter. So he's like, all right, put them in. I'll deal with Carney, whatever, no problem. You're going to have the other guy? Okay, that might be interesting too. He might respect Pierre a little bit more. Maybe he's not endorsing Carney. He's being titillating. I think he's being provocative, right? So he's letting us figure it out here, right? He's shaking the sheets of Canada, shaking it out. And we're all going, hey, Pierre. That's what he's doing. It's a psychological game. So don't take this as an endorsement of Carney and a criticism of Pierre. And a lot of people, there might be a backlash because they see Pierre as Maple MAGA or whatever. MAGA makes sense. We want to put Canada first. Trump wants to put America first. Those two are two smart dudes. Put them together. So I would just say wait and see. Don't take these comments too seriously. He's chiding us a little bit, Trump. Okay, Jimmy Dore. Jimmy Dore has also recently interviewed Maxime Bernier, which was a great pleasure to see him. And Maxime has stood out against and spoken up against the mandates from the beginning. So I have respect for that because he's one of the politicians that has done that. I wish there could be a way in a perfect world, maybe you'll think this is a stupid idea, but that if Pierre and Maxime could form a coalition, screw NDP liberals, they suck. Give me a little PPC and give me a little CPC, right? Do the Maxime and the Pierre. If they could find a way to get along, they would have, I think, the right philosophies and maybe business sense and maybe political experience to run this country right. If they could get along, that would be awesome. Okay, that's my thoughts for today. If you like my YouTube channel, hopefully you can find me and subscribe to me. I also am on Rumble if you search my name, Anita Krishna. I'm going to leave you now with just a little snippet from Jimmy Dore, where I talked a bit about Ruby Dalla also here. It is always like an honor to talk to like I said before, I can't even believe I'm talking to him, so I get... sometimes I trip over my words, but that can happen. But yeah, here it is. A little bit of me on Jimmy Dore. Here it is. Boom. He does something and you don't like it. You think, well, what are you thinking, right? But anyway, we want Pierre to be the new prime minister. And he was on a wave of getting there. And then all of a sudden, they tricked us. That's what I feel. Like Trudeau resigned, passed the baton to Mark Carney. Mark Carney just got in. Legally, he did get in, but only 100,000 Liberal voters voted him in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were like, so 100,000 people, some of them you didn't have to have sorry, I think it was 150 Canadian address, and you could be 14 years old. You were eligible to vote. They voted this guy in, so he became the new prime minister and de facto liberal leader, right? And de facto prime minister. Okay, so that's that. But anybody that stood up and got in his way, like a real person, there was a girl here named Ruby Dalla that ran, and she raised the money, $350,000 for the entry fee to become the liberal leader. They disqualified her for bullshit reasons. They announced it to her face on CBC television and then told her she was disqualified, but kept the money. The Liberal Party did. So they did all this dirty work to noodle him in, and the Canadian media just goes, "Oh, look at this Carney. He was a banker, and he's going to come save the day. Oh, he's so good with economics. Oh, he knows how to handle Trump. The hell he does. He went off to France. He's over hugging Macron in France, calling Canadians European. So they just put him in.
So he was wasn't he the governor of the Bank of England?
Governor of the Bank of England, governor of the Bank of Canada.
He's just a banker, and he wasn't even elected to Parliament.
He doesn't even have a seat. Technically, he can't go into Parliament and say anything or do anything. He doesn't even have a riding. He doesn't have a seat.
And so,
and how do you become prime minister?
It's like if they just grabbed like Jamie Dimon in the United States and made him president.
Yeah.
Is this
or grab the guy that works at the Esso or whatever at the local gas station or something? Just, hey, you'll do. Or no, grab a banker. Grab one of the elites.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, Jamie Dimon is the head of.
Oh yeah, what is he the head of again?
He's the head of.
Palantir?
No, his bank.
Chase.
Is it J.P. Morgan Chase? Is that it?
Oh, okay. I think Carney worked there too. He's the UN Special Envoy for Climate Action, former investment banker for Goldman Sachs, a WEF trustee.
He's a Goldman Sachs guy, a WEF trustee. You guys just made your prime minister. Yeah. What is going on with Canada, eh?
What is going on? And the regular Canadian people, because the media is selling him like this guy who's this economist, a lot of them are eating it up. And because everybody's so mad at Trump for the tariffs that haven't happened yet, that there's such a Trump backlash when we thought the conservatives were going to get in. Now they're spit shining Carney. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And people who are half awake are kind of like falling into the lair of the media Kool-Aid on it. And we're scared. A lot of us sort of people, we don't want this. It's so bad here in Canada. To have a man like this become our prime minister. Nobody voted for him, yet no one is raising a stink about it in a way, like regular people. It's because like you do what you told. If they told you to take the injection to save Granny, you do that. If they tell you to support Ukraine, you do that. If they tell you this guy's going to save the day, he's an investment banker, you accept that.